My name is Stephen, and I'll be your conference operator today. At this time, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Noble Workforce Management Conference Call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you should need assistance during the call, please press star and then 0, and an operator will come back on the line to assist you. Thank you. Mr. Caldwell, you may begin your conference.
Yes, thank you for attending today's Workforce Management webinar. First, I'd like to start off with some logistics for the session today. Our session will last for approximately 40 minutes. All the participants are on mute throughout the webinar. We will be answering questions that are submitted during the presentation at the end of the session for about 10 minutes after the formal presentation. There's the ability within live meeting to ask those questions. Simply select the Q&A menu, and you'll be able to submit those questions, and then we'll take a look at those as we get going. Today we have two speakers. I'm Carl Walder, Vice President of Solutions for North America. I'm responsible for the Technology and Optimization Performance Assessments practice. This practice analyzes overall call center operations and provides insight into how best to optimize your overall contact center performance. We also have Matt Schock with us today. Matt is our Senior Sales Engineer for the Noble solution and specializes in the implementation and configuration of the Noble Workforce Management solution. Today we'll be covering the following aspects of the Workforce Management solution: call center profitability and challenges, what are the call center operations staff asking for help in order to determine how best to manage their resources. We're going to review the components of a Workforce Management solution, and then how Noble Workforce Management meets these demands, and then we'll finish the conference with some questions and answers. During my top assessments and throughout my business and technical consulting career, the first step in any solution is to truly understand the business problem that needs to be solved by the solution under evaluation. When analyzing a call center, the two primary drivers that always seem to come up are: what are the appropriate full-time equivalent staffing to meet my expected service levels? What are my minimum staffing levels to meet these service levels? In a blended or an outbound environment, what are the staffing levels required to assure appropriate list penetration as well as maintaining inbound customer service levels? Do I not only have the appropriate staff, but do they have the skill sets to assure the call center missions successful? And finally, and most importantly, are the overall call center operations going to be profitable? As I'm working with the operational staff in our large call centers, I'm constantly looking at ways to optimize the overall contact center operations and determine appropriate cost versus revenue projections. One aspect that I'm specifically looking at is the overall agent staffing requirements. So I spend a large portion of our time looking at the following: how can you easily determine and forecast staff to meet specified service levels? How can you determine the optimum staffing requirements to reduce full-time equivalent operational costs? Once I create a staffing projection, how do I determine if the model is working during the actual day when making and receiving the calls? What if my historical data that most staffing models utilize to create scenarios is not valid based on what I know and what will be happening in my center today or tomorrow? Is there a way that I can make changes to this historical data? Most workforce management tools address the inbound staffing requirements. The Noble solution and the Noble customers, majority of those customers are large blended centers with large outbound missions that need to be blended with the inbound service levels. So how does the workforce management solution address my outbound production targets while maintaining my inbound service levels? And they have hundreds of agents in the particular call centers. So the amount of time required to manage all of their schedules requires a full-time resource to keep up with the volatility of changes of agents calling in sick, agents requesting time off, holidays, etc., if you're not using a workforce management solution. So how can the workforce management solution provide my call center agents a tool to request shifts, holidays, time off, pick shifts, and then how does that optimize my overall supervisor staff? Now let's get down into the components of a workforce management solution that address the business issues that we've just kind of taken a look at. A workforce management solution will provide the following benefits to the business. It's going to increase my levels of customer service, satisfaction, and loyalty. It's going to provide me more consistent service level management. It will improve my overall agent performance and productivity. It'll help in reducing my overall telecommunications costs. It's going to reduce my payroll-related expenses. It's going to give me administrative time savings advantages. We found that it's going to increase overall revenues, and more importantly, it also increases overall agent morale. If you take a look at it simplistically, and you want to take a look at a return on investment business case for workforce management, in simplified terms, from the limited improved productivity perspective, that if you can generate schedules that are 5% more efficient than current methodologies, then you can do the same amount of work with X less number of agents, or do Y more work with the same number of resources while maintaining your current service level objectives. So it's kind of like a basic high-level business statement in the development of a return on investment business case. Now I would like to bring Matt Schock into the conversation. Matt, can you give us an overview of the workforce management components included in the overall solution?
Yes, thank you very much. Some of the things you see listed here on the slide in front of you are part of the workforce management solution, and they include things like forecasting, the ability to schedule agents, the ability to utilize what-if scenarios to plan for your call center, the ability to have employee availability and preferences, exception and vacation planners, real-time schedule adherence, as well as detailed analysis and reporting. But from a deployment perspective, the web-based interface, which I mentioned earlier, really provides an easy access across your single site or the ability across multiple sites to access the solution.
So at a high level, it sounds like the product addresses the business issues and the questions that I'm running across in my call center practice. Since the majority of the call centers are working in a blended environment, how's the Noble solution unique in addressing the outbound forecasting requirements?
Yes, that's one of the unique things that we have with regards to the Noble Workforce Management solution is that we're now traditionally, like you said, workforce management has addressed essentially inbound service levels and the ability to meet those service levels from a staffing perspective. What we've done is really take it to the next step and from a truly blended solution because now more and more call centers we see are going to more of a blended environment. That we're able to not only forecast inbound service levels, but also add to that outbound activity and set certain target parameters based on right party contacts or completes or possibly even attempts. So what the system's going to do is really kind of take into account historical performance. This includes the history of your list penetration, your contacts history, your contact results, and the system is going to go ahead and then determine the number of resources required to execute those target parameters. The system will provide a forecast of the number of agents to reach that desired list performance. In addition, you're also going to factor in the inbound blended call volume so we can meet specific service levels.
Well, it sounds like a real innovation in workforce management, Matt. I know that I spend a lot of my consulting analysis time on this specific type of forecasting to assure that my clients are properly staffed for their collections, their sales targets, blended skill environments. As with all solutions, though, the devil is really in the details. So how difficult is it to deploy workforce management into a call center? And does the call center need to have an existing Noble solution, or will our solution work with other contact center solutions?
You know, Carl, that's an excellent question. And one of the key components of the Noble Workforce Management solution is operational ease of use, and the way it interfaces with many existing ACD or PBX functionality. The Noble Workforce Management has what we call a universal data connector that enables information to be imported from an external system. And currently we have out-of-the-box data connectors for the Noble Contact Center solution, obviously, the Noble AMCAT CCS solution, Cisco, Avaya, Nortel, and i3. So we covered the majority of the ACD PBX market there. It also provides a toolkit that was going to ease integration with other enterprise data systems. Obviously, once again, the web-based deployment really helps from an executive and supervisory perspective. Basically, it eases the burden on the IT department because users can log in using a web-based tool, and it makes it very universally deployable.
So thanks, Matt. That gives me an idea, and the audience an idea of kind of the technical deployment requirements. So with these data connectors, we were able to import what's already set up from our existing ACD and dialer platforms. So this enables us to set up initial models for our skill sets, our skill-based routing, provides a baseline for service levels for exporting historical data. It looks like we can import your agent identifiers and other ACD information as well as the dialer logs and configurations. So now that we have the information in the system, why don't we walk through how Noble Workforce Management can be utilized to optimize your agent workforce? I work with a number of customers that have groups, skills, and other aspects of their staffing models already set up. They use their call center system, combination of Excel worksheets, and other techniques to configure and set up their operational models. Now that we understand the business problem addressed by workforce management, and we have a high-level understanding of how workforce management interoperates with your existing infrastructure and how it's deployed, Matt, can you walk us through some of the areas used to configure a workforce management solution?
Sure. With the emergence of true multimedia, multi-site skills-based routing applications and the increasing sophistication of the customer care workforce, there's introduced a new layer of complexity to the traditional workforce management model. Work group configuration is key to the workforce management tool. It allows us to establish skill sets which can be imported from the Noble dialing platform as well as other ACD PBX tools. So essentially, call centers have specialized groups of employees who are assigned particular work and are categorized as work groups. For example, a call center can divide its workforce into a technical support group, a customer relation group, so on and so forth. Noble Workforce Management provides advanced yet simple and efficient tools that allow you to set up and manage work groups based on skill sets and not just business process type. The workforce management tool has the flexibility to merge groups together and produce multi-skilled groups. This feature is helpful in situations that demand a hybrid skill set for a particular project. The Noble solution also provides optimal schedules across multiple work groups that might be responsible for communicating with customers in different media types. Additionally, I can account for variables such as absenteeism, unscheduled breaks, which are typically referred to in workforce management circles as shrinkage. Finally, I'm also able to set up non-call activities. One of the really difficult things to really assess is there's things that are going to be part of an agent's job that aren't tied to a call event. So how do I forecast for that work? Things such as handling emails or faxes or doing callbacks or skip tracing. I have the ability now to set up non-call activities and create settings, so now I have a complete baseline against which I'm going to create my forecast.
Yes, and Noble Workforce Management uses advanced and well-proven forecasting and scheduling algorithms to provide accurate, efficient, and optimized forecast and scheduling. Scheduling in Noble Workforce Management is based on linear programming and heuristic algorithms, which are targeted towards minimizing the overall cost of generating schedules, ensuring that you have the required number of agents scheduled for each day. Most workforce management solutions utilize what's known as an Erlang-C calculation. The assumption behind Erlang-C are that the events or calls arrive randomly within the work period, like on half-hour or 15-minute intervals as you set them up. It also assumes that if a call is made and no agent is available to handle the call, it will go into a queue and wait there until a resource becomes available. This model is used most frequently in simple call center scenarios where a caller is asked to hold for the first available agent when entering into a queue. This does not account for your modern skill-based routing algorithms. So Noble Workforce Management goes beyond these straight calculations and additionally runs simulations based on the parameters of the work group, multiple skill sets, the shrinkage parameters, and creates more accurate forecasts. So Noble goes above and beyond the straight Erlang C calculations, specifically so that we can address both the multi-skilled routing models as well as the blended models. Matt?
Yeah. So now that we've basically set up our service levels and created all of our parameters for our work group, we need to have historical data in order to generate our forecast. So you can import historical data from the Noble or another ACD. Most workforce management solutions will provide this facility. The work history really forms the basis for the modeling that Carl just described. One issue that we often see arise, though, is that a particular day or set of days will not follow the typical norm. For example, if you have a particular mail drop for a collections team, or you know that you are running new TV ads that will generate a large amount of inbound call traffic, you need the ability to set up what is known as a distinctive day. This is where you set up basically, for example, the Friday after Thanksgiving. It is not going to be a typical Friday within your call center. So instead of using the Fridays from the previous 5 or 10 weeks, we can actually choose the 5 Fridays from the previous Fridays after Thanksgiving or any other historical days I choose in order to create my historical data for that particular day. But what is really difficult is when you do not have any historical data. For example, a new project or work team that is needed to generate a forecast. So using our work history tool, which you can see on the screen, we actually have the ability with our Quick Data Builder to build 5 weeks of historical data. We can basically set all of our peak call times, our abandonment rates, and the system will formulate 5 weeks of historical data over time. And then basically we also have the ability to move or copy data around. For instance, if last Monday within your call center you had a power outage in the morning and it's not a typical reflective Monday, we can insert data from another Monday or just take the weight off of that Monday when we pull up the historical data to be used. So there's really a lot of things that we can do with moving work history around, and this is an important factor because we need to be able to create accurate forecasts in order to base our schedules on. So if we can move to the next slide and start talking a little bit about forecasting, the Noble Workforce Management Solution forecasts call volume and the agent requirements for time frames in the future. Noble utilizes the work group and skill information, historical data, and distinctive days to continuously calculate a forecast for future call volume, average handle time, and intraday call distribution. Taking the preferred service level into account, Noble Workforce Management calculates a forecast of the required number of staff, as seen in the example here on the screen. Noble Workforce Management provides forecasting and staffing by taking the specific skill set of your staff into consideration. Distinctive days can be calculated and are used really to predict future call patterns for unusual or seasonal times. Essentially, the predicted need for staff is then used as the preferred staffing level in the schedule module. The outcome of the forecasting module will be the future optimal need of staff for each area of expertise.
So at this point, we've imported our historical information. We've set up our work groups and our skill sets. We've potentially modified our historical information with informed decisions of non-conforming workload based on those distinctive days. Matt, can you now describe how we can create schedules that's going to utilize this particular information?
Yes, that's really the next step in the logical step is scheduling essentially takes into account the forecast you just created in combination with the skill teams and available shifts you define to create the schedule. The screen you see in front of you now is what we call a tour file, and it is essentially just a list of available shifts that the system can use to basically make a schedule of our forecast. The system allows you to review that schedule and make changes and evaluate the cost. Once we forecast, we have the ability to create actual schedules. So in order to generate a schedule, we need to specify the times as you can see here in front of the screen. So we can set a list of available shifts. We can set the start and stop times for those shifts. We can create full and part-time shifts, and we can also set the breaks and lunches for each shift within that tour file. If we can go to the next screen here, now we have an actual schedule here. It could be in half-hour increments. It could be in hour increments. It really depends on the tour file you create. So the difference, though, in the Noble Workforce Management tool is that we separate the scheduling and the rostering function. This provides you with really a couple of advantages. Number one, it allows for the review of the schedule based on the skill required. It also allows you to take in agent preference in relation to start times and break times, and it allows you to make schedule changes without any sort of bias for a particular agent, only making those decisions based on the skills required to meet your service levels.
So Matt, with Noble's comprehensive forecasting and scheduling features, you can evaluate the current and future staffing requirements and explore possible changes in workload or operating goals. By evaluating various what-if conditions, can you make intelligent and sound business decisions? So traditionally, workforce management focuses on inbound. Noble Systems is an industry leader in blended and outbound solutions. So how does Noble Workforce Management address this?
That's a good question, and I think if we show our next schedule slide here, we're talking now about the outbound side of it. So we're really bringing into the outbound or blended side of it when we get to the scheduling component. And what we're doing is we've created a schedule to meet our inbound service levels. And what we're going to do now is really something we call value forecasting. What we want to do really is fill in slow periods of inbound traffic with outbound productivity and meet certain target parameters that we set up, whether they be attempts, right party contacts, or completes. And if we can look at the next screen, it's actually going to show an example of how we would create that schedule. If you see, I have my schedule of my above to meet my inbound service levels, and just below it now, I have the ability to add outbound projects to an already existing schedule. And I can set the number of history weeks to be used, the start and stop time for that particular outbound project, and what is my target parameter? Is it just attempts? Is it right party contacts? Or is it completes? My target number, and the system then, after you choose all those parameters, you'll hit the recalculate button, and the system will then tell you, hey, am I going to be able to meet this with the staff I currently have? And if not, would you please auto-add shifts in order for me to be able to meet this outbound project parameter? So this is really sort of a unique thing in the workforce management world, this ability to blend call center agents' activity to get the most time out, the most productivity out of their time. If we can move on into the staffing model, now that we have our schedule, we've done our forecast, we've created our schedule, what we really need to do then is to talk about our staffing. As I mentioned earlier, we're really unique in that we've basically separated the scheduling and the rostering portion so that we can basically make decisions about our schedule without any bias toward particular agents. So the staffing really takes the schedule you created and then evaluates your TSR's preferences to build a roster. Rosters are then published. Agents can log in, review their schedules, and request changes or time off.
So the Noble solution has all the tools to set the staffing model. So the problem I run into is trying to understand the true dynamics of the call staffing model. So is it possible to also look at what scenarios and what-if scenarios so I can model and project impacts?
Yes, absolutely. There's a tool that we use. It's called the agent availability tool. And, you know, we covered some what-if scenarios in the beginning when we sort of set our shrinkage parameters with absenteeism and non-call activities. And we're going to take it that much further. As we go through the process of forecasting, scheduling, and staffing, we're really taking sort of ideal views of our call center, making assumptions that, you know, beyond our absenteeism that, you know, no one's going to get sick or no one is you know, going to flake off or do other things. But what we can really do with those what-if scenarios is take a look at what if an agent calls in sick? What if there's a non-forecasted inbound traffic spike? What if I need to have a meeting or training with a certain number of agents? How is this going to impact my call center? And what are really my best times in order to do these sort of things?
Okay, so one of the things I run into constantly, specifically as I'm trying to do training and mentoring sessions and evaluating agents, is how can I determine the best time to set up a particular meeting, and what is it that will impact my call center the least when trying to create these meetings?
That's a really good question, and as you can see on the screen in front of us, the Noble Workforce Management tool using our agent availability tool allows for optimum meeting times to determine which will provide the least impact on productivity. So I can take a group of agents, they could be just 2 agents, they could be 10 agents or 15 agents, and basically tell the system, listen, I need these 4 or 5 agents for this period of time. Give me the optimal time where it's going to impact my call center and required agents the least. And the system will do that automatically for you and just choose it and block out the agent's time, or you can get a list of times and it'll show you the different levels of how it's going to impact you. So if we can go next now, we're really looking at the simulation. After I've created my staffing roster, what I can do is run what we call a roster simulation. And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to look at what do I expect to happen against my forecast. And so this tool is based on our schedule and roster that we created and really shows us the difference between what we forecast and the actual staff in the roster and what the resulting service levels we can expect. We also have what is known as a staffing graphical view, and this is really a very handy tool from a supervisor or managed perspective. Depending on the individual, it's sometimes useful to see a schedule in a graphical representation. Additionally, you can review breaks and lunches, and you can move things around. You'll notice here on the screen in front of us we have different schedules. The green bars are going to indicate lunches. The orange bars are going to indicate the breaks, and the light blue time is the actual time that they're actually available to work. What I can do with this as a manager or supervisor is start to move breaks and lunches around. Once again, it's going to tell me immediately how moving one break or one lunch will impact my call center.
So now it looks like I've got simulations, I've got projections, I've got the tools that are going to allow me to really take a look at my staff, drill down on them, move break times around, move lunch times around, graphically see what impact it's going to have on my service levels. But now everything is set up, projected, I've got everything working, I've got my projections, but what's actually happening in real time? And does the Noble Workforce Management solution deal with real-time implications and changes that actually are happening during the day? And what can you do about that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Wouldn't it be wonderful if everything just went as we planned? But as we all know, it doesn't. So what we have built into the system is the ability to manage the daily schedules for today. We can use, basically look at our forecasted versus our actual, what's really happening in real time. Using the Noble Data Collector, we're getting live feeds of what actually has happened on the 15 or half-hour interval, depending on which we choose. And if I'm not performing to expectations, we have what we call a cumulative ratio tool, which lets me take a certain period of time, which I see as being out of whack, so to speak, with regards to everything else, and being able to see how far out I am, and then reforecast based on this new information. So you can look at how you're performing against your forecast, what is actually happening. So basically maybe at lunchtime or middle of the day, I can go ahead and reforecast things. And there's different levels where greens, different shades of greens and reds will let you know how far you are either over or under with regards to the number of required agents.
So, Matt, can you drill down on a specific time period?
Absolutely. If you notice for whatever reason that, for instance, from 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning you've seen a spike in your inbound calls, I can just take that segment and say, okay, what was my actual versus my forecast for just that particular segment, and it'll give me a ratio of how far off I was. And if I want, I could reforecast the remainder of my day based on that time period.
So it sounds like we've covered and you've answered a lot of the issues that I run in terms of what-if scenarios in the actual day-to-day operations of the call center. But as you know, once I've set up the schedules and have done all your modeling, it does not always go as planned. So how else does workforce management address what's happening in real time in terms of adherence?
Well, we do have a real-time adherence tool, or the real-time adherence module, and what this does is basically you typically run into events such as do you have an unscheduled meeting? Did weather affect your staffing today? Are the agents adhering to scheduled break times? Did you forecast for the correct call volume? So looking at this real-time monitor, similar to the agent stations monitoring tool in the Noble solution, it allows managers to see which agents are out of adherence in real time based on service levels and whether they are following the schedule with regards to breaks and lunches. So this allows a manager to take proactive actions to bring the call center back in line with service level expectations.
Yeah, Matt, so this is a great tool. I know that the Noble Agent Stations Monitor provides you a lot of this real-time data, but this really allows us to organize it around, if you're using the Noble solution, an Avaya switch, an Aspect switch, or other ACDs, and really gives us a great snapshot of what's going on. You know, another issue that plagues my customers that have large numbers of agents spread across multiple centers is the amount of time it actually takes to kind of like manage and monitor and configure all of this scheduling. Is there something available that's going to help reduce the overall supervisor and operational staff associated with managing all of these agents?
Yeah. We have what is known as Noble Workforce Management Anywhere, which is our web-based solution. Basically what it does is give agents can input information and also review their schedule. They can self-manage their schedule by using a web-based tool that can be accessed from their homes. They can request time off, review changes to their schedules, bid on available schedules if necessary, and basically automated schedule request notification so they can see when a request for a day off or vacation has been approved. So an agent can basically pull up a schedule for a particular day. They could pull it up for a week. They could print it out. If maybe look at the next slide, it'll give us some examples here of what those things look like. So I could pull up a schedule there for a particular day. And then if I go to the next one, I can look at, from an agent perspective, days off that I've requested or bids that are available for bidding out there. Once requested, a supervisor, and looking at the supervisor screen now, then can either accept or decline a pending request from an agent. And the nice part about this is that the managers have historical views of what an agent requested in the past in order to be able to make their decision.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you very much for giving us all of that information. We've kind of finished with the presentation portion of our webinar. So the Noble solution looks like it's providing the following advantages. Usability. It's easy to set up. It's easy to learn. It's easy to use. It's got a familiar user interface for both my agents and supervisors. Functionality. We've got a complete workforce management product, including agent forecasting, skill-based scheduling, staffing, intraday management, real-time adherence, integrates to Noble Contact Center Solution Suite, as well as additional ACD and call center packages. It's scalable, so it will grow with you as you add more agents. It's also affordable. You've got a rapid payback with a return on investment. It reduces our overall agent shrinkage, improves agent schedule adherence, reduces my overall staffing, as well as seems like it's got the tools to reduce overall supervisor time and management. So now that we've finished the questions, let's take a look at some of, or the presentation, let's take a look at some of the questions that have been asked so far from our audience. So let me think here. All right, question one. in terms of call center size, what's the ideal call center size for the product, i.e., is it 10 or 50 seats, 50 to 150 seats, 150 to 400 seats, etc.? So what's the cost per seat, and do you have a partner consultant VAR program? So based on our analysis to date, Matt, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, what we found is based on our analysis and looking at from a perspective of return on investment and as well as how productive it's going to be. We've found a nice breaking point to be right at 20 or more agents is really where you're going to see some value in an investment in a workforce management tool. As far as the other things with that, Carl, I'll turn it back over to you with regards to.
Yeah, from a pricing perspective, the way it's licensed is it's based on a named user. So you may have 50 concurrent agent licenses, but if you've got 2 shifts that work on those 50 licenses, you would need 100 licenses of workforce management because, after all, we're scheduling on a per-person mechanism. Cost per seat, I'm going to let you work with your Noble account representatives on that. I don't tend to get into those areas. And we do have partner, consultant, and value-added retail programs, and please feel free to contact us if you're interested in anything like that. Next question is, can we use it for both inbound and outbound simultaneously? Matt, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think we covered that partially in the webinar, but if we didn't, let me make it perfectly clear that the Noble Workforce Management Solution, one of the key differentiators in it, is the ability to forecast for a truly blended environment. So basically what we're going to do is look at your inbound schedule that you've created in order to meet certain service levels and basically add outbound work to that and figure out what parameters we need to be able to meet a certain target, whether it be right party contacts, whether it be attempts, or whether it be completes. And we're also going to do this in the most cost-effective manner. So we're going to look at the historical data of the best times to contact when we're getting the most right party contacts or completes.
Okay. Okay, another question. There are many factors that determine best calling time, time of day, campaign location, specific areas within a campaign. Are you able to provide a more efficient way to determine best calling times based upon these multiple factors quickly?
Yes, I think really that it's a combination of not only the workforce management solution, but it's based on scheduling and forecast, and the algorithms are designed to provide you this detail and real-time adherence capabilities, as well as what-if scenarios, as well as using all the historical data from the Noble dialing solution.
Okay. Next question. What are the software and hardware configuration and integration requirements associated with Noble Composer and Maestro?
Well, from a hardware and software perspective, we've obviously already built the data connector to be able to get that real-time feed from whether it be the Noble dialing solution or another ACD or PBX, so that we can feed that data into real time. We do have the ability to do a manual import of historical data too, if you've got some existing historical data offline or archived. And then, from a hardware perspective, it's really quite minimal. There's not a lot of hardware footprint there from a workforce management solution. Typically under 250 agents, we can do it on a single server. It uses Microsoft SQL as its back-end database and IIS as its web server tool for the Workforce Management Anywhere tool.
And it's my understanding too, Matt, that all of the agent setup, the agent skill sets configured within Maestro automatically import into the solution.
Yeah, we can import all of the agent information, the skill sets, additionally any other data that you have. The staffing module actually maintains a lot of data for a particular agent. We can include things like home address and phone number, from which that means the workforce management tool can be used by a manager supervisor via the web to contact possibly an agent who is late or is not showing up for work.
And it's also my understanding that we'll import that information from the third-party tools as well. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
Okay, next question I have here is, how does the Noble Workforce Management integrate with multiple discrete dialers and ACDs? I think we've covered that.
We have covered it. We do have what is known as a generic data connector, which oftentimes will work with the majority of dialing solutions and ACDs, PBXs that are out there. In the event that we don't, as I mentioned before, we can do a manual upload from a CSV or Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Next question is, do you have a solution based on a workforce that is 100% full-time, or would we have to have a combination of full-time and part-time employees for the workforce management system to work?
That's really a question that we get quite often you know what, I only have 2 different shifts, or I only have 3 different shifts, or I have 3 full-time shifts on the 24-hour call center. And the answer is, obviously, the more varying shifts that you have, the more flexibility you have to create multiple shifts, possibly the more return on investment you will get out of the workforce management solution. But even those centers with just a single shift or 2 shifts are going to see some benefit from it, optimizing break times as well as putting the right skilled agent to start at the right time. But what we really try to do from a consultative perspective, and Carl, you do this with your top assessments, we do it as part of the implementation plan, is to really sort of work with you and figure out, maybe a culture change needs to take place within your call center, and we can help advise you that. Whether or not you go forward with that is up to you, but we can really see some benefits even as in a single shift environment in just optimizing breaks and times, cutting down on agents' handle time with requests as far as time off, and to be able to put shifts out there for bidding. You're going to see an increased productivity. Plus, your managers and supervisors don't have to maintain a schedule on an Excel spreadsheet anymore, which is really very time-consuming the larger and larger your call center gets.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm really starting to run across quite frequently is part-time shifts. Part-time shifts being driven by work-at-home and work-at-home models. We're finding that there's a large need in the marketplace right now for folks to create these part-time shifts for the work-at-home workforce, as well as around universities and colleges. We're also seeing a lot of part-time shifts being created to accommodate some higher skill sets driving our call center. So the what-if analysis tools really help us do the compare and contrast between a full-time shift as well as a part-time shift. We're also finding that agent effectiveness, we run into centers, they've got full 8-hour shifts. I mean, I've even run across centers that have employees staying at 10 hours. But we're actually finding the agent effectiveness sweet spot is right around 6 hours. And then we're also seeing a lot of folks based on insurance regulations, things of that nature. If they've got part-time employees, they're able to really contain their costs by having part-time shifts because there's no business requirement or government requirement to provide benefits. So there's a big compare and contrast there between full and part-time shifts. Now we've got another question. How do I determine how much data I need, and how often must I replenish this need? I'm a $12 million yearly home improvement company with 25 outbound appointments a day. Matt, you want to take a shot at that?
Could you give me those stats again? I'm sorry, I kind of missed the last part there.
I'm a $12 million yearly home improvement company with 25 outbound appointments a day. So how much data do I need, and how often do I need to replenish the data?
Well, what we're going to really looking at is the historical data it sounds like we're making primarily outbound calls. So what we'll be looking for is the historical data of the call volumes. And what we do from an outbound perspective is based on the target parameter that you want to hit. And in my best guess here from this person is that an appointment, a set appointment over the phone would be considered a complete. And what we would be looking at is, okay, how many complete, I want to make this many completes in the day. the system's going to look at, okay, what's the best time, or when am I getting my most completes on an hour-by-hour basis, and basically schedule agents to that. Now, that could be a combination of full-time and part-time shifts. It could be a combination of many different things. But typically, I would say a minimum of 5 weeks of historical data. How often you want to replenish that data is probably on a fairly daily basis, because we want to use how the call center is trending most recently. For instance, if I'm going to forecast for next week, data from 3 or 4 months ago probably is not going to be that prevalent. I want to see what happened last week, the week before that, and the week before that. So really you want new data to create your short-term forecast.
Well, and also I've run across this quite often as well. When we're making those outbound calls to set appointments, 9 times out of 10 we're not able to reach the particular person, or we're leaving messages. So another great tool is I'm able to use outbound messaging campaigns with text-to-speech, verifying appointments, driving appointments. That is going to generate inbound call volume, and then based on that inbound call volume, you really need to use a blended model to do that. The next point is the Noble Workforce Management tool allows you to select the number of weeks that you want to utilize in order to generate a particular forecast and a schedule. Some of the alternate solutions on the market really have you locked in with a hard-coded 5-week historical number. We allow you to flex and add more weeks or use less weeks as appropriate based on your day-to-day operations. So I think that's one thing we want to point out as well. Next question. What do you do for time and attendance? Do you integrate with another package? The Noble Workforce Management solution, as with all Noble products, our database is open. So you'll be able to do extracts out of both the Noble solution as well as the Workforce Management package, and using our data connectors be able to drive and move into other packages. Wouldn't you say that our data connectors are pretty open so that we'll be pretty flexible on that, Matt?
Yeah, it really kind of depends on the information that we're looking for. What it sounds like is the time is that they may be looking to export the information for adherence to possibly an HR platform for the purposes of payroll. We have a whole reporting package within the Noble Workforce Management tool which will give you accurate adherence times for each individual agent. But absolutely, the database is open to export that data, and with professional services possibly, or looking at things, we could absolutely set up a scenario where we're exporting historical data from the Workforce Management tool to an HR solution for the purposes of payroll.
And we always get this particular question. What is special and different about your tool when we compare it to major players like IEX, Aspect, and Blue Pumpkin? We actually have just had a complete rundown by a number of different consultants, independent consultants in the industry. And Matt, do you want to share some of their findings?
Yes. In all honesty, there's several workforce management tools out there, and they all do some level of forecasting, scheduling, rostering. You'll see real-time adherence. Many of them have a web-based solution. I think, in studies and in comparisons and in feedback that we've gotten from multiple sources, it's really the ease of use of the Noble Workforce Management tool as a module in your call center. With so many technologies out there today being what we found to be is there's several of them that are somewhat cumbersome and take multiple people to operate. You can have a single person build your forecast, create your schedules, roster those schedules, manage your agents depending on the size of your center, and be able to interact and interface with agents on a fairly regular basis. There's not a lot of complexity to it when it comes to learning, so we've created a very user-friendly solution from an interface perspective.
Yeah, and so usability is one of the issues that I'm seeing quite often, and and some of the feedback that I'm getting back, as well as our outbound blended algorithm seems to be really hitting the mark in most of the customers that we're working with. So I believe that is all the questions we have for today. I'd like to thank you all very much for attending. Please feel free to contact us at Noble Systems. Reach out to your account managers if you've got additional questions, and those account managers will be able to engage either Matt or myself to answer any further questions you may have. So